Welcome to Creepy, the best horror storyteller on YouTube.
Part 1.
The night was dark and stormy, and the wind howled outside the window of the old farmhouse. Jake, a young journalist, was sitting at his laptop, typing furiously. He had been hired by a popular online magazine to write a feature article about the mysterious disappearances that had been plaguing the rural area for the past few months. He had spent the day interviewing the local sheriff, the families of the missing people, and some of the witnesses who claimed to have seen a strange creature lurking in the woods. Jake was skeptical about the whole thing. He didn't believe in monsters or supernatural beings. He thought there must be a logical explanation for the vanishings. Maybe a serial killer, or a cult, or a wild animal. He was determined to find out the truth and expose it to the world. He had rented the farmhouse for a week, hoping to get some peace and quiet while he worked on his story. He didn't mind being alone in the middle of nowhere. He was used to it. He had traveled to many remote places in his career, and he always enjoyed the challenge and the adventure. He glanced at the clock on his laptop. It was almost midnight. He decided to take a break and make some coffee. He got up from his desk and walked to the kitchen. He turned on the light and filled the kettle with water. He put it on the stove and waited for it to boil. He looked around the kitchen. It was old and rustic, but cozy and charming. He liked the farmhouse. It had a lot of character and history. He wondered who had lived here before him, and what stories they could tell. He heard a loud thud from upstairs. He frowned. He was sure he was the only one in the house. He had checked all the rooms and locked all the doors and windows when he arrived. He thought it might be a rat or a raccoon, or maybe a branch that had fallen on the roof. He shrugged and ignored it. He poured himself a cup of coffee and added some sugar and cream. He took a sip and savored the warm and bitter taste. He walked back to his laptop and sat down. He resumed his typing. He was halfway through his article when he heard another thud from upstairs. This time, it was louder and more distinct. It sounded like someone was walking around, or dragging something heavy. Jake felt a surge of fear and curiosity. He got up and grabbed a flashlight from his backpack. He decided to investigate. He didn't want to be surprised by an intruder, or worse, a wild animal. He walked to the stairs and climbed them slowly. He reached the second floor and turned on his flashlight. He scanned the hallway. There were 4 doors, 2 on each side. He tried the first one on the left. It was locked. He moved to the next one. It was also locked. He crossed the hallway and tried the third one. It was unlocked. He opened it and entered. The room was dark and dusty. It looked like a bedroom, but it was empty. There was no furniture, no decorations, no signs of life. Just a bare wooden floor and a dirty window. Jake shone his flashlight around the room. He saw nothing unusual. He was about to leave when he noticed a small door in the corner. It was partially hidden by a curtain. He walked over to it and pulled the curtain aside. He saw a metal handle and a padlock. He tried to open it, but it was locked. He wondered what was behind it. He felt a sudden chill in the air. He heard a faint whisper in his ear. "Don't look behind you." He froze. He felt a cold breath on his neck. He felt a hand on his shoulder. He felt a sharp pain in his back. He screamed.
Part 2.
Jake fell to the floor, bleeding profusely. He tried to turn around and see who or what had stabbed him, but he couldn't move. He felt paralyzed. He felt a warm liquid dripping from his wound. He felt his life slipping away. He heard a low chuckle from behind him. "Did you really think you could escape me?" the voice said. "Did you really think you could expose me to the world? Did you really think you could stop me from taking what I want?" Jake recognized the voice. It was the sheriff. The same sheriff who had welcomed him to the town, who had given him all the information about the disappearances, who had offered to help him with his investigation. The same sheriff who had lied to him, who had deceived him, who had betrayed him. The sheriff was the monster. Jake remembered the stories he had heard from the witnesses. They had described a creature that was half human, half animal. A creature that had glowing red eyes, sharp teeth, and claws. A creature that could change its shape and appearance at will. A creature that could mimic human voices and behaviors. A creature that hunted humans for sport and pleasure. The sheriff was a shapeshifter. Jake realized that he had been played. The sheriff had lured him into a trap. He had rented him the farmhouse, knowing that it was his lair. He had locked the other rooms, knowing that they contained the bodies of his previous victims. He had left the small door unlocked, knowing that Jake would be curious enough to open it. He had hidden behind the curtain, waiting for the right moment to strike. He had whispered in his ear, knowing that Jake would look behind him. That was his mistake. Jake had a rule. A rule that he had learned from his years of traveling and writing. A rule that had saved his life more than once. Don't look behind you. Jake had broken his rule. And now he was paying the price. He felt the sheriff's hand on his head. He felt the sheriff's breath on his ear. He felt the sheriff's teeth on his neck. He felt nothing.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more similar horror stories.